Good morning. Let's see, who can give me the thumbs up? Okay, good, excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Fager and Mrs. Zabrowski. Okay, we are in Perek Yutes of Sefer Yeshaya, page 140 in the Art Scroll. I'm sorry, we're on page Perek Yutes of Yeshaya, page 136 of the Art Scroll. Yes, please, Ms. Davis, please give me a call or send me an email. I may be out right after the shir, but we can work out a time today, please. So we're on page 136, Perek Yutes of Sefer Yeshaya. We've had several prakim that begin with the word masa, which introduces a burdensome nevuah. It means that it's going to be the fall of a certain empire. We've seen several of those prakim, and if we skip Perek Yutes and go to Perek Yutes, that perek begins Masa Mitzrayim, the burdensome prophecy on the Egyptian kingdom. Perek Yutes is somewhere in the middle. It's between the Masa and the next Masa. We did Masa for Aram. We did the Masa for Eretz Pelishtim. We did Masa for an Ashur. And we're going to do Masa Mitzrayim. In between, we have a perek that does not begin with Masa. And because part of the Nevuah, if not the central focus of the Nevuah of Yeshaya now, is going to be about the downfall of Gog and Magog, that famous war, whatever that is, as prophesied more in depth in the book of Zechariah. Yeshaya gives us an inkling here in several psukim about Gog and Magog. Who are these nations? No one's exactly sure, but it's the battle of Gog and Magog, where many nations come together and want to attack Yerushalayim. And in this perek, we're going to learn about the downfall of Gog and Magog and Kibbutz Goliath. So while this is a perek of, so to speak, a masa, a burdensome nevuah to Gog and Magog, from the ash of Gog and Magog rises out a tremendous victory for the Jewish people and the discussion of Kibbutz Goliath. So we don't have this perek beginning with the word masa. Perek Yutes on page 136 is talking about the Gog and Magog war. The words here are very difficult. In fact, if you take a look in the Art Scroll on page 137 on verse 2, it says this. It begins by talking about this complex verse. The pasuk itself, even if you translate the Hebrew words into English, you still don't really understand Yeshaya's message unless you have Chazal explaining it to you. So let's take a look first at the words as we've done for the last few weeks. Let's take a look at the Hebrew and then the English and see what the message is from Yeshaya. Perek Yutes Pasuk Aleph, page 136. Hoi eretz tziltzal kinafayim, asher me'ever lenahare kush. Woe to the land of clamorous wings on the other side of the rivers of Cush. So we're getting a little hint here where this nation is. It is on the other side of the river of Cush. If we take a look at the Art Scroll, Asher Me'ever Lenare Cush, Cush lies to the south of Egypt. The biblical Cush is to the south of Egypt, between the southern valley and the Red Sea. It probably spread over the area which today is the eastern part of Sudan, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. So it is in that area, whatever the countries may be called today, it is in that area that now we're talking about armies amassing, but not just amassing their armies, but amassing armies from around the world in the hope of conquering Yerushalayim. So again, the pasuk begins with woe to the clamorous wings. The clamorous wings is talking about a nation that has such a large army that, like when birds fly and they make a lot of noise when they fly together from the clamor of their wings, this will be a huge army that can be one would say as a marshal. It's so big, this army, it's like birds whose wings clamor. And this army is Me'aver Lenare Kush, from this area that we just described. Pasuk Beis, Hasholeach Bayom Tzirim Ublekle Gomer, page 138, Al Pnei Mayim, L'chu Malachim Kalim El Goy Mumushat Mushach Umorot El Amnora Min Hu Bahala Goy Kavkov Umavusa Asher Bazu Naharim Artso. This is the verse that Art Scroll wrote. This is very complex. Let's first read the English on page 137. We're talking about the land, these nations who are on the other side of the river Cush, and what will they begin doing? Which sends agents into the sea, in papyrus vessels upon the surface of the water. Go, fleet messengers, to the nation that is dragged and plucked, to the people that inspired awe from the day it came into being and onward, a nation that is detested and trampled, whose land was ravished by kings. The message of this pasuk is, it's talking about the Goyim are so shocked that the Jewish people have come back to Eretz Yisrael. They can't even believe that after all the years of torture, oppression, murder, Hitlers, Chemolnikis, crusades, etc., the nations of the world are shocked that the Jewish people have once again assembled in Eretz Yisrael. And in a martial type of way, Yeshaya says they're going to be so shocked that they're going to want to send messengers to Eretz Yisrael to check this report. There's a report that Jews are again massed in Eretz Yisrael. Can this be possible? And they're going to, in a martial kind of way, send messengers. Can someone check this out? Is it true that the Jews that we've killed for so many centuries have somehow amassed again in Eretz Yisrael? So they're shocked by the kibbutz Goliath. So if we take a look on page 137 in the Art Scroll, verse 2, this complex verse foretells that in the future, kings will send agents to see if Bnei Yisrael, has indeed returned to its land and eminence. During its history, Israel's fortunes have varied according to its loyalty to God. Going to the next comment. Hasholech Bayom Tzirim, which sends agents into the sea. The king who rules the nation on the other side of the rivers of Cush will send agents to the land of Israel by the way of the Mediterranean Sea to see if it is true that Bnei Yisrael has been returned to its ancestral land. And that's a quote from Rashi, obviously translated. But this is what the nations will be shocked about. Yeshaya is prophesying at the shock to the point where the Goyim will say, can we get some people to check this out? Is it true that they've established themselves again in Eretz Yisrael? This is a nevuah, obviously, that has come true, is coming true, and we're living this nevuah. The nations of the world express their shock that the Jewish people have come back to Eretz Yisrael by trying to strike down Eretz Yisrael. Make it smaller, give away more land, give up this, give up this. The idea that the Jews have come back to the Eretz Yisrael, the biblical Eretz Yisrael, is something that shocks them. And the first war that they want to fight is a war of peace. A war of peace is, yes, we will allow you to exist, but you're going to have to give away some land. You can't be so big. Sorry, we're going to allow you to exist with our humble permission. After killing you for so many centuries, we're giving you permission to live in your land, but not in all the land. We're going to decide upon what your borders will be. The shock first begins with peaceful overtures. Perhaps you can give away some of your land to some other non-nation. And perhaps you can curtail your building in Yerushalayim, and perhaps you can freeze your building in other parts of Eretz Yisrael. After all, we're shocked that you're even back here. Can you take it easy and slow? So we're living this nevuah, and we're going to see later today how true this nevuah is, given the situation we are in, particularly right now in Eretz Yisrael. So Yeshaya says that these nations will send ships to Eretz Yisrael, papyrus vessels, very light ships, because they want the ships to get to Eretz Yisrael as quickly as possible to bring back the news, because they're completely shocked. It can't be that the people that we despise, the people that we tortured, the people that we killed suddenly are back in Eretz Yisrael. So I'm turning now to page 139, again the art scroll. They will travel in swift boats that float easily on the water. They're going to want to get to Eretz Yisrael as quickly as they can to see, is it possible that these people are back in their home? El goy memushach umorot, to the nation that is dragged and plucked. Yeshaya instructs the enemies of Israel to view the current status of the nation that throughout history had been dragged from one exile to another, decimating them and their land. Yes, Yeshaya says, yeah, come, you want to take a peek, take a peek. It is the people that you decimated and plucked and exiled from country to country. You want to take a peek? It's true. They're here, they're home. El amnora min hu v'hala, to the people that inspired awe from the day it came into being and onward. From the very day that the Jewish people became a nation, they inspired awe in all who observed them, for they have survived the innumerable attempts of destruction and annihilation that the non-Jewish nations have launched against them throughout their history. Goy Kavkov, a nation that is detested. The translation follows Rashi. Next, Asher Bozu Nahorim Arzo, whose land was ravished by rivers. Rivers is a metaphor for foreign kings who have flooded and plundered the land. So this is Pasuk Beis, verse 2. The nations of the world want to send reporters to Eretz Yisrael. In time of Yeshaya was said as a metaphor. They're going to use very, very light ships to get to Eretz Yisrael as quickly as possible and report back. Can it be true? Pasuk Gimel, page 138. This pasuk, this pasuk is a pasuk we'll say Be'ezrat Hashem, L'shana Tova u'Mesuka on Rosh Hashanah, that long Shmona Esrei of Musaf on Rosh Hashanah, where we say 10 psukim of Malchios, 10 psukim of Zechronos, 10 psukim of Shofaros. One of the 10 psukim of Shofaros that is said in that long Musaf Shmona Esrei of Rosh Hashanah is this pasuk. Kol Yoshvei Sevel, V'shochne Aretz, Kinso Nes Harim Tiru, V'chiskoa Shofar Tishma'u. And that's why it's one of the 10 psukim of Shofaros, because it talks about the shofar of the future. Verse 3, page 139. All you inhabitants of the world and dwellers of the earth, You will see when the banner is hoisted upon the mountains, and when the shofar sounds, you will hear. First, let's start with page 138. The bottom of page 138. This is a quote from Rambam. The Rambam wrote a letter called Igeres Taimon. The Rambam wrote many letters besides all the other sforim he wrote. He wrote letters to communities to be machazik the communities. At the time of the Rambam, the Jewish people were being plundered by two enemies. One of them was the Catholic Church, and one of them was Islam. And it was hard to find a place where Jews can live peacefully and safely. So the Rambam wrote letters to different communities to be machazik them. One of those famous letters is called Igeres Taimon, the letter that was written to Taimon, Morocco. And he was writing this to Moroccan Jews to be machazik them, given the situation that they were under. And in that Igeres Taimon, which is available, anybody can buy Igeres Taimon. There's a book called Igeres, Sforim called The Letters of the Rambam. It's also been translated. In that Igeres Taimon, the Rambam writes, and this is translated, the final redemption will begin in Eretz Yisrael. The Mashiach will reveal himself there, and Jews will converge on Yerushalayim and other cities of Eretz for the Holy Land. From there, I said Taimon is Morocco, Taimon is Yemen. From there, awareness of the new epoch will spread to Yemen and to other lands. So the Rambam is being machazik the Jews in Yemen about how the Geula is going to come and how it's going to flow and save the Jews from the Muslim kingdoms. The Rambam writes, and it's quite obvious, the final redemption will begin in Eretz Yisrael. I mentioned several times Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, who was the mashgiach in the Mir in Europe, in his Sefer writes the following. In the Ani Mamins, it says, one of the Rambam's 13 Ani Mamins, it says, Ani Mamin b'emuna shalem b'viyas HaMashiach, v'afal pi shiyis mameya, im kol zeh achaka loy b'chol yom sheyavoy. And even though Mashiach may tarry, achakalo, I wait for him, b'chol yom sheyavoy, that he'll come every day. So there's this concept of not just believing in Mashiach. The Rambam added words here. The Rambam said, this is unlike the other animamins. The other animamins are statements. I believe with a perfect belief that God doesn't have a body, is not made up of component parts, he's a perfect unity. Okay. There's no if, whens, and buts. It's a statement of absolute belief. When the Rambam wrote that, when the Rambam talked about Mashiach, the animamin that was derived from the Rambam's words says animamin b'emuna shalem b'viyas HaMashiach, and it could end there. I have a perfect belief that Mashiach is coming, and then the Rambam continues, va'ava pi shiyis mameya, even though he tarries, achakalei b'chol yom shel. I'm going to wait for him. I'm eagerly waiting for him. So important what this was, the statement to the Rambam of Achakaloi, that the Rambam in Hilchas Malachim, that we've read here more than once, the Rambam in Hilchas Malachim writes that a person that doesn't believe in the concept of Mashiach, a Jew, doesn't believe that there's such a thing as Mashiach. He doesn't think that a Mashiach is coming to redeem and help perfect that perfectly imperfect world that we talk about in the Das Tavunus. Doesn't believe it. He's a kaifa b'Torah. It's as if he can have tefillin and mezuzah and keep 72 minutes Rabbeinu Tam, ala good geshmak ha'maisim, but he's a kaifa b'Torah u'b'divrei Nevi'im. He is considered a person who denies the whole Torah and all the words of the Nevi'im. In this very severe rule, the Rambam adds language. A person who doesn't believe in Mashiach, or a person who believes in Mashiach, but is not mechakel libiyosai. He's not eagerly awaiting for him to come. Same rule. He's a kaifrin called divrei neviim. So you can have a person who believes in Mashiach. He believes all the niceties about Mashiach. But he's not machak l'biyosei. He's not eagerly, desperately waiting, needs Mashiach. He's in the same parsha as the person who doesn't believe that Mashiach is coming at all. He's a koifa b'toiva. A koifa b'toiva. That's the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim. So Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz writes in his Sefer Al HaTorah, he used a train because that was the popular mode of travel in Poland, in Russia. We'll use a plane, the more modern mode of travel, to the extent that there is travel today. You expect your parents, a child, an uncle, an aunt, very good friend that you haven't seen in a while. You expect them to come to Eretz Yisrael, and they tell you they're arriving on El Al 101. So what do? You go to your computer, you call in the phone number, you check arrival time for El Al 101. It says the arrival time for El Al 101, you have to wait till final time. Final time, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock this afternoon, El Al 101 is landing. So two different types of people that deal with El Al 101. First person says El Al 101 is arriving at 3. Okay. Arriving at 3, they have to first get off the plane. The plane sits on the field 10, 15 minutes until the pilot opens the door. And then you have to get your luggage. People are going to the overhead compartments. People are pushing. People are shoving. Until you get off the plane, it's already about 3:15. Now you have to walk to the passport control. It's already 3:25. Now you wait on passport control. It's already 3:40. Now you got to wait for your luggage. It's already 3:55. No, so the 3 El Al 101 that lands at 3, my best friend or my father, my mother, or my child, they're going to walk out that door at 4 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to get to the airport at 10 to 4. Okay, so you make a cheshbon. I need to be at the airport at 10 to 4. You leave the house at 3, which is when the plane is landing. You leave the house at 3 because you have 50 minutes to get to the airport. Makore, all kinds of things are kore. You get into traffic. The person that you're waiting for actually had a front seat and gets off the plane very quickly, gets the passport control very quickly, and the wonder of wonders, the luggage is out there and the person's out of the airport at 3:40, and you're not there. The person's looking for their son, their daughter. Where's the person that's going to pick me up? So they wait there. You get there at 3:50, and you apologize. I'm so sorry, I'm late. I didn't realize this. I didn't realize that. That's person number 1 that's dealing with El Al 101. The other person that's dealing with El Al 101 says, I want to make sure that when Bobby or Zaidi or Tati or Mami or my son or my daughter walk through those doors with their luggage, they see me. And immediately they can fall into my arms and give a hug, and we can welcome, we can say hello and shalom aleichem and express our deep, deep gratitude that we're able to see each other again. I don't want to miss that moment when the person walks through those doors. So El Al is landing at 3. I want to be there at 3, 3:05, 3:10. I don't want to chas v'shalom miss the chance to see the arrival of this person that I've been waiting to see for so long. Now you're at the airport, and you're at the airport at 3:10, and the person comes out at 3:50. It's Beseder Gamur. The whole wait was Beseder Gamur because I want to be there when the person arrives. And so Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz says this is what the Rambam's talking about when we talk about a machaka l'biyasai, a person that's waiting for Mashiach. The Rambam says, "Af al pi she'ismameh im kol zeh achaka lo." I'm waiting for him. And the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, in Hilchos, this is halacha, right? The Rambam paskins. The Rambam paskins halacha. A Jew that doesn't believe that there's such a thing as Mashiach, he is a denier of the whole Torah. And a Jew who absolutely believes that there's such a thing as Mashiach, but he's not eagerly waiting for him, is also a kaifer in Kol HaTorah Kula. How do you wait? You want to be at the gate when the person arrives. Where's the gate? We all know where the gate is. We just read it on page 138. We didn't need to read on page 138 from the Rambam. The gate is Eretz Yisrael. That's where the final redemption will begin in Eretz Yisrael. He's coming to Eretz Yisrael. You want to wait for him? Wait at the point of arrival. And that's called the Machaka L'Biyasi. Rabbi Yerucham tells us a person wants to wait, in his words, a person waits at the train station for the person to arrive. He doesn't want the person to arrive and then say, oh, where's Shmelka? Where's Reuben? Where's my son? Where's my daughter? Where's my father? Where's my mother? How come nobody's here to greet me? You don't want to be that yid that has to be pointed out. Oh, where's Shmelka? Where is he? He's not here. Oh, he's coming from America. Okay, we got to wait till he comes. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the person that was Yoitza Machaka L'Biyasai, and you're at the arrival station when he comes. So that's the final redemption will begin in Eretz Yisrael. I'm going back now to the pasuk we just read, pasuk Gimel. We'll read again in English. This is a pasuk. We'll read a Hebrew in English. This is a pasuk from the Rosh Hashanah Musaf, the 10 psukim of Shofaris. Kol yoshvei teva v'sheichne aretz kinsonei sarim teruvas cheskoa shofa tishmo. All you inhabitants of the world and dwellers of the earth, you will see when the banner is hoisted up upon the mountains, and when the shofar sounds, you will hear. Page 139, the Art Scroll. God declares, verse 3, God declares that there is no need to send agents to see if Israel has returned to its land. You don't have to. You don't have to send reporters. You do not have to send your ships to check out to see if the Jews have come home. Not necessary. For at that time, the banner that will muster the scattered Israelites will be manifest for all to see. It's a mashal. The flag, the banner that will bring Klal Yisrael back together to Eretz Yisrael will be manifest for everyone to see. You don't have to send your reporters. You do not have to send any ships. You don't have to send any agents to check out the story. The story is going to become self-evident to every one of you as you watch history develop. You're going to see that, yes, there's a kibbutz Goliath, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and you're not going to be able to stop it. Jews are coming home. No need to send you reporters. And when the shofar will sound, indeed all will hear that Israel has been returned to the ancestral land, that famous Tekiah Gedolah, that Tekiah Gedolah that we sound on Rosh Hashanah, which is supposed to remind us of the Tekiah of Mashiach. That is the scariest Tekiah for the Yetzer Hara and for the Goyim, because of that, they understand it, they know it, they may not know it consciously, but when they hear it, they're going to shudder, because they're going to, deep down, they know exactly what that shofar blast is going to mean, and that's the Tekiah Gedolah that we blast on Rosh Hashanah. I'm still reading on page 139. Alternatively, there will not be any actual banner raised nor any actual shofar sounded, but the ingathering of the Jewish people from exile will be as massive as if a banner had been raised and a shofar had been sounded. This is the kibbutz Goliath. It'll be so massive that people will know about it all around the world without a shofar blowing. One way to proclaim that dispersed people should come back home is to raise a flag that is visible from afar and to sound the shofar, thus the simile of our verse. Rabbi Hertz Schatz, in his commentary to the Musaf prayers of Rosh Hashanah, where I mentioned this pasuk is said, translates Shochnei Eretz as those who reside in the ground. Take a look again, page 138. Kol Yoshvei Sevel, all you inhabitants of the world, V'shochnei Eretz, and dwellers of the earth. What two types of people are we talking about here? Inhabitants of the world and dwellers of the earth. So Rav Schatz says that translates Shochnei Eretz as those who reside in the ground, a reference to the dead who will be revived through the blowing of the shofar at the time of the ultimate redemption. That's the Tchias HaMesim shofar. We've been talking the last few days, Das Tevunos and Tchias HaMesim. That's a Tchias HaMesim shofar. Okay, let's take a look at Pasuk Dalet, page 138. Kicho Amah Hashem Elai, Eshkota Va'abita B'machoni, Kechom Tzach Alei Or, Ka'ov Tal B'chom Katzir. Verse 4. For thus said Hashem to me, I will be at ease, and I will look after my place of foundation, like crisp warmth after the rain, like a mist of dew in the heat of the harvest. Art Scroll, verse 4. My place of foundation is the Holy Temple, Beis Hamikdash. God has stated clearly that he will not be silent nor rest while Israel is in exile, but when the redemption arrives, he will then rest and look favorably at his Beis Hamikdash. Pasuk Hey, page 138. Ki lifnei kotzir kitam perach uboser gomel yiyeh nitza. The Choras, page 140, Hazal Zalim Bamaz Merod, the Es Hanatishot, Hey Sir, Hey Saz. I'm going to read verse 6 as well. Ye'ozru yachtov la'eit harim ulevehemas ha'oretz, v'kotzalov ha'ayed v'chobemas ha'oretz olav techlach. This is about the fall of Gog and Magog, who want to come and attack Yerushalayim. And one of the reasons they want to attack Yerushalayim is because they've heard this news and they realize that there's a mass of Jews that are now gathering back into Eretz Yisrael. They don't like this idea. They've tried for centuries to destroy the Jewish people. And here you go again. They popped up and they planted themselves back in Eretz Yisrael. Time to declare the final quote-unquote war on the Jewish people, which means the war on Yerushalayim. And here's what Yeshaya tells us in the name of the Ribono Shel Olam, page 139. For before the harvest, when the flower is finished and the bud turns to a grape approaching ripeness, he will cut down the young branches with pruning hooks, and he will remove and chop off all the twigs. They, meaning the dead corpses of the Gog and Magog army, will be left together for the bird of prey of the mountains and for the beast of the earth. And the bird of prey will feast in the summer on them, and every beast of the earth will feast in the winter on them. The birds will consume the flesh of these dead soldiers in the summer, and the animals will consume the flesh of the remaining soldiers in the winter. Let's take a look back at page 139. Verse 5, for before the harvest when the flower is finished. The prophet metaphorically compares the armies of Gog and Magog and its allies to a budding grapevine. Just as grapes slowly develop on the vine and ultimately become mature and ripe, so will Gog and Magog slowly build massive and powerful armies and weaponry, which, when ripe, will attempt to attack and crush Yerushalayim. Uboser gomel yenitza, and the bud turns to a grape approaching ripeness. The ripe grape symbolizes Gog and Magog. They will become ripe. It will be an army with tremendous amount of weapons, and they are ripe for a major war. Like grapes growing on the vine, from bud to finished fruit, their triumphant armies will grow as more and more troops and cavalry come. More and more troops will come. More countries will join in. More and more countries will join in, prepared to attack Yerushalayim. Verse number 5 at the bottom of page 138 and to the top of 139. The last words at the page 138 to the top of 139, it says, V'choras hazalzalim bamazmeros. And right now we've been talking about Gog and Magog will be cut down. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, listen carefully to the Gemara and think about the implications of what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara quotes this pasuk. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina tells us, Ein ben David ba, Mashiach will not come, ad shetichla malchus hazala miYisrael, until the low or cheap kingdom of the Jewish people will come to an end. Shenemar, we learned this out of the pasuk that I just read. Last word on page 138. First words on page 140. V'choras hazalzalim. Zalzal means cheap, low. That cheap, low kingdom will be cut down like a vine. The Gemara says, Ein ben David bar, Mashiach will not come, ad shetichla malchus hazala miYisrael, until that cheap, low-level kingdom will be removed from the Jewish people. Shenema, the pasuk says, V'choras hazalzalim b'mazmeros. Uksiv basrei, and immediately after that pasuk it says, a pasuk that we'll read in a moment, and at that day there will be the finishing of the incoming of the exiles, the kibbutz galuyos. We'll see that in a moment. We read the words again. What's the implication of this Gemara? Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, Ein ben David ba, Mashiach is not going to come. Ad shetichla malchus hazala miYisrael, until that low level or cheap form of kingship will be ended over the Jewish people. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina said this in the time of the Gemara. Time of the Gemara, the Jews were spread all over the world, many in Bavel, but they were spread around the world in Golus. And he says Mashiach is not coming until that low level kingship over the Jewish people comes to the end. Achetichla malchus hazola miYisrael. What malchus is he talking about? Now, the svarim that I took a look at conveniently evade this question, and they evade the question by giving the pasuk and they're giving this Gemara a completely different meaning. Malchus Yisrael means other Gentiles who are ruling over the Jewish people. Nobody really wants to deal with the simple, basic pshat of the words of the Gemara. Ben David is not going to come until that low-level form of kingship will end over the Jewish people. That doesn't sound, that's what it says, that before Mashiach comes, there will be some sort of malchus, there will be some sign of kingdom or kingship over Jewish people, and that eventually will have to come to an end too. What kingship is it talking about of the Jewish people? What rulership, what today's word, what sovereignty, malchus are we talking about over the Jewish people? Everybody come to their own conclusion. We know what the conclusion is. The Gemara says that before Ben David comes, there's going to be some kind of malchus over the Jewish people. And that type of malchus is going to come to an end when Mashiach comes and we have the true malchus of Mashiach ben David. And the Gemara calls this malchus is a Malchus Hazola. It's a low-level Malchus. It's a Malchus Yisrael. It's a Malchus of Jewish people over Yisrael. Malchus Yisrael, and that Malchus has to come to an end. So we clearly, at least the way I read the Gemara from its normal language into a direct translation. Now you can, again, everybody that's interested, you can take out, we have Baruch Hashem 2 thumbs and 2 grubber fingers, and you can drape the Gemara any which way you want. But that's what the Gemara says. And the Gemara clearly is telling us that before Mashiach ben David comes, there will be a Malchus Hazolah, there will be some kind of kingship over Jewish people, there will be a cheap kind of kingship, and that will come to an end when Mashiach ben David takes over and rules not only Eretz Yisrael, but will rule over the world. And now we come to Pasuk Zayin. Pasuk Vav says that there'll be so many dead Gog and Magog soldiers from around the world that the birds in the summer and the animals in the winter will have to consume their corpses. Although there is Yecheskel prophesies that after the war of Gog and Magog, the Jewish people will be spending 7 months burying all the dead soldiers in this area. But even after spending 7 months burying these soldiers to clean up Eretz Yisrael, they'll still need birds and animals to consume the corpses because this army is going to be massive. Pasuk Zayin. And this is the last pasuk of this chapter. Ba'es hahi yuval shai lashem tzavakos. Am mamushach umorat ume'am nora min hu v'hala. Goy kavkov umavusa asher bozu nahorim arzo el makom shem Hashem tzavakos har tzion. Let's take a look at the English. This is an amazing pasuk. We've talked about this idea more than once. It's an amazing pasuk. We'll take a look at the last words some of the last words in the book of Yeshaya in a moment, where the same idea is told to us. Page 141. At that time, after the fall of Gog and Magog, there will be nations in the world that will not have joined with Gog and Magog to fight over Yerushalayim. There will be some nations that won't join the fight. And in those nations, there will still be Jews who are living in exile. They didn't make Aliyah. They didn't come to Eretz Yisrael. They're waiting for the man coming on the white donkey. And they waited there in Chutz La'aretz. And now the war of Gog and Magog has come. And of course, they use the war as an excuse. Eretz Yisrael is a dangerous place. How can we go? There are so many kingdoms that surround it. But everybody's so happy today. Everybody's jumping for joy all over the place that Baruch Hashem, the United Arab Emirates, says they're going to send us an ambassador, and we're going to send an ambassador back. We're jumping for joy, Baruch Hashem. Another bunch of Arabs have recognized that the Jewish people have a right to live in Eretz Yisrael. Mazel tov l'chaim. Gewaltig. There will be nations that will not join this battle. And in that battle, where Gog and Magog will be destroyed, these nations will have Jews in them who didn't come. So what will the Goyim in these nations do? They're going to take these Yiddelach and they're going to bring God a gift. Shai in this pasuk, in pasuk Zayin, Shai means a gift. These Goyim who see the downfall of Gog and Magog, they're going to say, "What are you doing here, Jew? What are you doing here? Why aren't you in Eretz Yisrael?" And they're going to take these Jews and bring them to Eretz Yisrael as a gift to God. God, we have a gift for you. We brought some Yiddelach back to Eretz Yisrael for you. And some Jews are going to need that. They're going to need to be escorted by Goyim to help them back here. So in Pasuk Zayin on page 141, at that time, an offering will be brought to Hashem, a gift, an offering, master of legions, namely, what will the gift be? The people that is dragged and plucked And some of the people that inspired awe from the day it came into being and onward, describing the Jewish people from the day that the Jewish people came into being, they inspired awe in all the nations of the world. Nevertheless, they were plucked and dragged. The nation that is oppressed and trampled, whose land is ravished by rivers, to the place wherein rests the name of Hashem, Master of Legions, Har Tzion. Let's take a look at the art scroll on verse 7. At that time, an offering will be brought to Hashem, Master of Legions, namely the people that is dragged and plucked. Upon hearing of God's miraculous annihilation of the armies of Gog and Magog, the nations of the world who had remained in their lands and had not attacked Yerushalayim will bring the Jewish inhabitants of their lands to Eretz Yisrael as an offering to God. There are those Jews who are going to need a goy to help them get to Eretz Yisrael. Loi aleinu, if that's what you're waiting for. Loi aleinu. There are many opportunities to come to Eretz Yisrael. It's been an opportunity for many, many years. And everybody has all their excuses. And some people are not ready, and some people don't know, and they don't know if their panos is right. They don't know about the chinuch of their children, not sure if the place is safe, and all this kind of thing. And they don't know if their grandchildren will be able to learn Hebrew, all the other kinds of stuff that we've talked about in the past. And even when things get dangerous, they'll say, it's dangerous there too. And when Gog and Magog is defeated, you would think they say, oh, this is unbelievable. Let's all go to Eretz Yisrael now. No. They're still not ready. They're going to need a guy to take them by the hand and say, come, we're going to Eretz Yisrael. And the goyim will come to Eretz Yisrael with smiles on their face. Rabbeinu Shalom, we'd like to bring you a gift, an offering. We have some yidulach here for you that didn't come to Eretz Yisrael yet. And this is our gift from us, from our nation to you. The last of the art scrolls on page 141, before chapter 19, to the place wherein rests the name of Hashem, Master of Legions, Mount Zion. The nations will bring those Jewish people who had remained in their land to the place where God's name is proclaimed to the world, to Mount Zion, God's holy mountain, Jerusalem. So the Goyim are going to bring them there. We'll take a look quickly. If you turn to your art scroll on page 502, chapter 66, the last chapter in Yeshaya, page 502, chapter 66, verse 20, same thing. V'heviu es kol achechem mikol hagoyim minchal Hashem basusim barechev batzabim bakrodim bakirkoris al harkot Yerushalayim am Hashem kasher yoviu b'nei Yisrael es hamincha b'chlitor beis Hashem v'gam mehem ekach lekohanim la'laviyim am Hashem. Let's take a look at the English, page 503, verse 20. They, the goyim who didn't participate with Gog and Magog, will bring all your brethren from all the nations as an offering to Hashem. And how will they get them there? So Yeshaya is using the mode of transportation of his time, with horses, with chariots, with covered wagons, with mules, with joyous stands, to my mountain Jerusalem, says Hashem. Just as the children of Israel bring the offering in a pure vessel to the house of Hashem. Just like there are Jews that bring offerings to the Beis HaMikdash. That's one type of Jew. He's in Eretz Yisrael, and he wants to bring an offering to the Beis HaMikdash. There are other Jews who are going to be brought to Eretz Yisrael by the Goyim as an offering to Hashem. Verse 21. This is amazing. These Goyim who've brought the last Jews for the Kibbutz Goliath to Eretz Yisrael, what is God going to do to these Goyim? From them too, I will take men to be Kohanim and Leviim, says Hashem. It sounds like God's going to make Goyim into Kohanim and Leviim. You can't make someone a Kohen and a Levi. He's either born a Kohen or he's not. He's either born a Levi or he's not. You can't make someone a Kohen or Levi. You certainly can't make a Goy a Kohen or a Levi. And the Mefarshim say that the pshat is here that they're not going to become Kohanim Leviim, quite obviously, but these goyim who bring this last group of Jews, and again we get the art scroll in its defining moments, as we've discussed many times. It says that, quoting Rashi, talk about that when we get to chapter 66. These Jews that will be brought by these goyim, these goyim will have the schus to help Kohanim and Leviim in the third Beis Hamikdash. So this last group of Jews, Artsco calls them the assimilated Jews that don't know better. Quote unquote assimilated can have a narrow meaning a Jew that doesn't know he's a Jew, and therefore he's assimilated and he's married a non-Jew, or chas v'sholom, some other thing. He's culturally assimilated. That's how we think of assimilation. Assimilated can be also Mashiach syndrome assimilated. You're so assimilated into a culture that you feel so comfortable there that you don't feel you need to go anywhere because everything is going fine. The Chidush Yarim, as I mentioned so often, the Chidush Yarim in Pesach, the first Ger Rebbe, the Chidush Yarim writes, we drink 4 cups of wine on Pesach to remember the 4 words of Geula. There are actually 5. We drink 4 cups. The 5th cup is the Koshel Eliyahu. The Maharal and his followers do drink the 5th cup. You read the Rambam in the halachas of Pesach. He also talks about drinking the 5th cup. The minute for most people is not to drink the 5th cup for whatever reason. And we concentrate on the 5 words of Geula. We concentrate on 4. Unfortunately, we don't concentrate on the 5th. I personally believe that there's a Golas mentality that entered into this equation. The 5 words of Geula that appear in Parshas Ve'era, God said to Moshe, V'hotzesi, v'hitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti, v'hevesi. The 5th word, the 5th cup, is for the word v'hevesi. I will bring you to Eretz Yisrael. That's nobody wants to drink that cup, and it's like a scary cup. You're going to bring me to Eretz Yisrael. I'm not ready to drink that cup yet. Yeshaya. It's a good thing. I talked about it before the space, and I talked about it many times in Eish Kodesh. The Maharal and his Haggadah. I once spoke in Eish Kodesh on a Shabbos Haggadah, and I gave out the Maharal, and we talked about the Indian of drinking the 5th cup. And the Maharal says, those who drink the 5th cup, the Maharal says where you're supposed to drink it. It's a skula for Parnasa. And as soon as I said it was a skula for Parnasa, it became something of great interest, because now the Vehevesi can mean a little money. And now people got interested. How do I know that? I know that people got interested in this 5th cup, because the 5th cup is symbolic of getting back to Eretz Yisrael. But once the Maharal said it's symbolic to a couple of dollars in your pocket, people want to drink that 5th cup. Yeshaya. The first word of the 5 words of Geula is V'hotzesi. V'hotzesi eschem, the verse says, V'hotzesi eschem mitachas sivlos Mitzrayim. I will take you out from the burden of Egypt. And all the Mefarshim ask, sivlos, how did the word sivlos come to mean burden? It should say, V'hotzesi eschem mitachas perech Mitzrayim, V'hotzesi eschem mitachas avdus Mitzrayim, V'hotzesi eschem mitachas shibud Mitzrayim. What's sivlos? Sivlos, the root of the word sivlos is sevel, savlanut, patience. What does patience have to do with Mitzrayim? And the Chidush Yarim says, a yesod that every Jew should carry with him. Geula does not start until the first word. The Geula goes in 5 stages. V'hotzesi, v'hitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti v'vesi. Nothing starts till V'hotzesi. I will take you out of the ability to tolerate, the ability to live in Mitzrayim. It's hard. It's not the greatest thing. But look, and the Jews said it in the Midbar. We want to go back to Mitzrayim. Zachan was Hadaga. Remember, we used to get fish in Mitzrayim. We don't want to eat mum. We want to go back to Mitzrayim. We want to go back to Auschwitz. Take me back to Auschwitz. At least in Auschwitz, I got some water and potato skin. Take me back to Auschwitz, please. We can't imagine such a thing. But because once this is inside the person, he becomes a golus mentality. The hardest thing to undo is a golus mentality. For those who want to read more about this, there's a whole sefer from the Chalvan. You can take a look at the Chalvan. Hakitzu Varananu. There's a volume about wake up and start getting yourself ready for Mashiach. People are in the doldrums. People are asleep. We'll talk about that more on Thursday when we start talking about Shuvah and Rosh Hashanah and the blowing of the shofar. The shofar is a wake-up call. It's an alarm clock. You've been asleep for 11 months, or you've been asleep for 2,000 years in Golus. How about maybe it's time to wake up? Maybe it's time to wake up already. People want to push the snooze button on the alarm clock and say, no, leave me alone. Can you leave me alone? It's not the greatest thing. But I have a job, my kids are in school, my wife is happy, I have a summer home, I have 2 cars. Can you maybe leave me alone? Geula doesn't start until the Rabbanu Shalom is able, with our cooperation, to rip out from inside us the patience, the sivlois, the sevel, the patience that we have to be in Golus. That is the opposite of what we spoke about a few minutes ago. The Rambam's a chakaloi. I'm desperately waiting. I want to be at the train station. I don't want to miss this. I want to be there when he arrives. That's just the opposite of sevel. I can wait. I can be patient. 2,000 years? Well, 2,000 years is a long time. So what if it's 2,006 years? It's vast. It's a terrible thing if it, 2,000 years already. And we're existing. And Baruch Hashem, everything's good, fine. It'll take another 2-3 years. 2-3 years. No. It took already 2,000 years. It'll take another 3 years. That's the Rambam's Eina Mechaka L'Biyosai. Such a person is a koifer b'Torah, because he's a koifer in the Geula. The Geula is Votzeis Yeschem Mitachas Sivlos Mitzrayim. It doesn't begin until you rip out from inside yourself your ability to be patient and tolerant and being homeless. Eretz Yisrael is our natural home. It's the land of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that was bequeathed to us. And a Jew that's in exile is just an abnormal situation. How can you say it's an abnormal situation? Take a look at Maral Netzach Yisrael, Perek Aleph. Netzach Yisrael, Perek Aleph. Maral, Netzach Yisrael, Perek Aleph. Perek Aleph, Netzach Yisrael, Maral. Take a look. He says a Jew that lives in Chutz La'aretz is in an abnormal situation. He says if you would see water flowing upward or fire burning downward, which is completely unnatural, that's what you're seeing when you see a Yid in Golus. In Nebuch, a Yid's in Golus. But it's a completely unnatural thing. It's unnatural. This is what our great men wrote about Chutz La'aretz. We mentioned when we learned about Tumas Ha'amim, a Nazir in Chutz La'aretz. It's not Lublin talking. It's a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah Nazir. A Yid in Chutz La'aretz said Hareini Nazir, and he kept his Nazirus perfectly for 30 days. When he comes to Eretz Yisrael, he has to start again, because when he was in Chutz La'aretz, he's tamei. The Chachamim said Chutz La'aretz is tamei. It's ritually impure. And a Nazir can't keep his Nazirus in a place that's ritually impure. And a Nazir that goes into a cemetery, boom, he killed his Nazirus. A Nazir can't be a Nazir in Chutz La'aretz. This is a Mishnah. This is a halacha. These are Gemaras. These are Chazal. These are Medrashim. These are Nevuos of Yeshaya. You want to learn it or you want to live it? Everybody can make that choice. I bought my art scroll. It was on the shelf at Eichler's. I'm just saying this sarcastically. I went into Eichler's, I bought my Yeshaya, and I'm learning it every day in Muncie, Williamsburg, Milwaukee, Borough Park, wherever you are. I'm learning Yeshaya every day. I'm learning it every day. and I'm reading Yeshaya Perek Yudches and Perek Samach Vav, and it talks about these last Jews that will remain in Chutz La'aretz, and they're not even going to come back. And after Gog and Magog, they're going to need Goyim to help them come back to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, next pasuk. What's on? How about stopping and thinking about this? Do I want to be one of those Jews that has to be escorted to Eretz Yisrael by my next door Black Lives Matter friend? Do I need the Black Lives Matter escort to bring me to Eretz Yisrael? I don't want that. So you can either learn Yeshaya that you bought at Eichler's, or you can read Yeshaya, pause and think about what does Yeshaya mean for me and how do I live the Nevuah?